those moments brought me to my knees. And those moments really showed me, okay, like none of this in this life can I actually do without you. And he was showing me, okay, this is what a good father does. Because yeah, my kids are going to get mad at me. They're going to say things to me. Can I be able to take it? Can I be that bulwark of tolerating so many things, to be strong, to be able to hold it together, to model that, and when the time comes, be able to say, hey, let's talk.
Welcome back, Dale.
Cheers.
Welcome back to the bar. Cheers.
To the bar.
And happy Father's Day.
Yes. Happy
Father's Day.
happy
Happy day.
Thank you. Happy day.
Dale's a dad. I'm a dog dad.
You're a dog dad. It still counts.
Yeah. So aspiring human dad. But hey, Dale. I mean, first off, really enjoyed having Reed on
That's great
episode.
Yeah, it was really good.
So if you haven't listened to that, highly recommend.
Intersection of faith and mental illness.
Yeah. I had a friend say that it was a good conversation in the sense that it made her think about so much that it's like, in a way, it left more questions to be answered, but in a way, like, makes you think. So I was like, I feel like that's the vibe we both got from it.
I feel like there's definitely a lot more to be able to dive into, and I'm sure Reed we'll see Reed again.
Nice.
And so I think that leaves lots of doors open because there's still lots of unexplored territory there. So I think that's good. So yeah, that's good.
Cool. Well, today I'd love to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Since there's only one of us here is a dad.
Okay. And I can ask you about Zuri.
You can. I mean, again, it's a disclaimer that's talking about fathering a dog, right? So lessons may apply or not apply in other areas of life. But did you ever when you were younger, did you like picture you being a dad?
Oh, you went right for it.
Yeah.
Huh? Nice. Yeah. No. I actually I had a hard time imagining myself being a father. Not because it's something that I think I just couldn't even connect to that point in time. And knowing what I know now, I think a lot of it had to do with growing up in a home that was slightly chaotic and unstable. There was a lot of factors that you could say left my hippocampus and prefrontal cortex offline to be able to think in depth about life and future. And so was focused on surviving right now and what we have to do right now, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But as far as being able to have future aspirations about wanting to be a father or what I wanted to do in my 20s, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't just parenthood, but just like a lot of future like dreams.
Yeah.
What you wanted to be when you grew up.
So I remember the first thing I remember when I was a kid was I wanted to be a horse jockey. No lie. I wanted to be a horse jockey.
Wait,
mostly,
how? Where did that come from?
Yeah, because so my grandfather raced horses, and there was this picture on my dad's dresser of my grandfather holding like a winning ribbon, and the horse's name was Dr. Tad, and I still remember that. And the guy on the horse looked really kind of confident, prestigious, and I remember like my grandfather standing in front of the horse, and like it was like a cool picture. It looked like just there was lots of I don't know, it sparked something in me that I was like, oh cool, that guy looks like he's comfortable, like he's got it all together. I want to be that guy on the horse.
Yes.
But I didn't actually know, like I didn't know how to ride horses. I'd never even been around horses at that time. And that was the thing that I said from a very young age. But it wasn't because I really knew anything about that. It was because I remember the first thing I had in my mind was that picture,
Mm.
that picture of this man that also was next to my grandfather, and my father loved this picture, and he had it on his dresser. And so I think for me as a child, it was more symbolism.
Right. Isn't that wild though? How kids really pick up on that.
Oh, it's uncanny. And I didn't even really connect those dots till I was older. Like
Mm.
talking about it now, it even dawns on me even more. I'm like,
Mm.
well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But at the time, yeah, that was the first thing that I had in my mind.
Horse jockey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, horse jockey. I wanted to be 5'2" and weigh 100 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but that, yeah.
Mm.
So kind of missed that mark.
Yeah.
But
Man. Got you. Got you. So didn't have any aspirations of being a father till probably much later in life.
yeah, it was honestly, after I got out of rehab that
Mm.
that was like, oh no, like I want to have kids.
Mm.
I want to be a dad.
How old are you then?
Oh, that's a great question.
20s, right?
Yeah, I was in my mid-20s.
Mid-20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so you just dropped a bomb there that you went to
Yeah.
rehab.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
guess it
should
did.
unpack that today or
Yeah.
another day.
Yeah, well no, I mean I
Yeah.
can unpack it today. So basically like I guess I can so in the spirit of talking about Father's Day, my father, despite his best efforts, left out a lot of things. It left a lot of things unsaid. And there was conversations that weren't able to be had because there was too much chaos going on. Conversations say about like standard things that I think parents ought to talk to their children about, one of those being sex. Right? So for me, I never got the sex talk.
Mm.
Right? I had some sex talks. I remember one my mom gave me saying, never take off your pants. That was actually good advice. That was really good advice. Just don't take off your pants. Okay. All right. Good advice. I remembered that. It was good advice.
Yeah.
But then nothing else as far as like, I think for me that I needed from my father at the time. And again, I'm not trying to demean the man in any way now, but it's just, they were things that didn't happen. And so I didn't understand how to interpret sexual desire. So as a young kid, I had interactions with pornography at a young age on a computer, like when they first were coming out.
Oh yeah.
And
Computer age.
yeah, because like it was like the new thing in their late 90s. And I didn't even know what to make of it, know what to do with it. But during that same time, my family started falling to pieces. And so like I made these powerful associations of feeling uncomfortable and then seeing pornography. And those two things went hand in hand and became very powerful connectors. We might call them a positive reinforcer. So
it's like how you coped with the
chaos
in your
how I
home.
coped with the chaos. It was a very functional distraction.
Yeah.
Right. Now, fast forward, the reason I even bring that up is because I didn't even understand what, to some degree, that's all right. Like there is some normalcy to that for young boys. Like there's some curiosity elements to that, like that were actually it's common, right? Again, not talking about a moral perspective here, but things that would be, okay, no, that biologically makes sense, right? All right, yeah, you're going to have these changes. You're going to be experiencing these things. You're going to have these desires that you're going to have to learn to cope and control here. And then also, hey, keep in mind, like this is where things would lie in probably a healthy perspective. When it gets unhealthy, this is what it's going to look like, right? So those conversations never really took place. As a result, I'm married young, mid-20s. I was looking at porn and then I thought I was like, I didn't know when it was problematic or not. So I just got scared because at that point in life, my parents had lost everything due to unhealthy habits and patterns. And so my largest fear was replaying that wheel
in your own life.
In my own life. I was never unfaithful to my wife or anything like that. In a matter of speaking, obviously we could go into semantic arguments. You hear people say that, well, if you look at another woman, right? But I didn't understand how to interpret my own sexual desires and what that even meant and how to deal with stress in a healthy way.
Nor even, you're saying this as a married,
as a married young man. And I think a large reason for that was just I didn't even understand the role to which it was commonly experienced among people. I didn't have a lot of those conversations with other men to look at that stuff. And so that became a primary concern. And then at that point in my life, I was still dealing with things that were hallmarks of PTSD, waking up, in night terrors, cold sweats, constantly checking locks. And a lot of that was from trauma I had experienced as a kid. And those things were really the catalyst that I think were the pinpointing factors that drove me to say, okay, like I need some help. I don't know what's actually going on here. This might be what's going on, but I don't know. Right. And I was too scared to talk to anybody about anything.
Yeah. So you had not been to like therapy or anything at this point?
I had been to therapy, but it was very like surface level. Okay. Like I had kind of told a therapist about some things like when I was in college, but it was very surface level. I didn't go too deep into things and I didn't talk about any of my own challenges really. And to a degree that I would say was significant. I hadn't done any specific trauma work. And so that's where it really, I think, came to a head for me. And that's what brought me to that place of saying, all right, well, I think I need a larger intervention here. I don't know what to do. I was having what you might call a quarter life crisis. Right? Not to steal John Mayer's song, but
right. I'm sure he doesn't mind.
Yeah. Let's hope not. Right. So
do you feel like being married brought that stuff out more clearly? Like
being married was way more stressful because I was married too young, right? In one context, because I didn't know how to provide for a wife at that point in time. Right. I knew that I needed values and I knew that I needed to pursue things based in value, but I still also didn't know what I wanted in life. And so that left moorings very unhinged in the sense that like I was just lost.
Yeah.
And so that made it really challenging. And so when things came up that, hey, like, how do you handle this challenge? I didn't know. I couldn't answer that. And so either it would be like a way bigger challenge than it needed to be, or it wasn't a big enough challenge. Like it wasn't a big enough problem, right? In the sense, so I mentioned pornography, like it was like, oh, this has come up and I looked at pornography like, several times this week. Do I have a significant problem with this? Like I was very concerned about that. Right. Hyper vigilant, you could say.
Yeah.
But yet stressed out at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't have enough close connections that I trusted. Because maybe I could, like, you hear people talk about things, maybe guys talk about shop talk or something like that. But I also didn't trust people very heavily either. So I would share only to a point. And I was actually very reserved in certain ways and too open in others. Right. So there's a little bit of a dichotomy and duality.
It's always like that, right? There's always like we're reserved in the wrong places and too open in the wrong places as well, right?
Yeah, but hearkening back again, where this ties into to fatherhood, I guess is like I think that my father wasn't equipped either to be able to help in those areas, and he had significant challenges himself that inhibited him from being able to provide the support that he needed to. And unfortunately that left me in a place. Obviously it was my responsibility now to figure it out. I didn't know how to.
Right. So it was until after rehab, right?
Yeah. So
then
basically
considered.
Yeah. So basically rehab, like, is interesting because somebody asked me this the other night, like, what did that do for me? Like, and when I say rehab, it was like literally like I was at it Yeah, like I was in rehab with a lot of different people, like heroin addicts, like it was just a vast array. But like honestly, like it was kind of neat in some ways, then also not exactly helpful in others. But
Mm.
um, we did a lot of trauma work, and it was the first place that someone told me, or rather, I felt that I had permission to be angry and
Mm.
have anger.
Really?
Yeah.
So anger was an emotion that
Oh,
your relationship with anger was
oh, I hate it.
complicated.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah,
It like I would take it on, and then it would eat me alive.
got you. Mm.
And my father, he would get angry in the same sort of way, but he would like have these bursts of anger and get really
Yeah,
like
right.
upset and
Explosive.
yeah, explosive, like at certain random times, like, and not like he was never violent towards me, but it would just be explosive in certain ways and have these angry outbursts at certain times when he got really frustrated. But most of the time he was pretty chill, too chill,
Mm.
you could say.
Hmm.
And for me, I think because of the nature of the situation with things that were going on, I was uh, in a codependent relationship with my parents, taking care of them, you could say.
Hmm.
And so I didn't I didn't really know what to do with anger until after. Well, I really until like I think that yeah, rehab, that those intensive weeks were really the first opportunity in which someone said like, "Hey, like sounds like you're pretty angry."
Hmm.
And I was like, I didn't even know what to say to that. Like, but it was just a long, arduous process, really. And I remember doing this, like, it's called Gestalt therapy,
Mm.
right? They
Yeah.
didn't call it that, but now I know, like, oh, yeah, that's everything we were
Empty
doing.
chair work
Yeah,
and
empty
all
chair
that good
work, and
stuff.
then you'd take this bat and you'd beat this styrofoam block after you did your
Ooh.
empty chair work.
Ooh.
And I remember we call it a hit list,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
I remember the first one I did.
By the way, empty chair is like
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
it's like live. And maybe you can clarify it for me, but like Gestalt therapy is very like here and now in the moment.
Yes.
And so, like for example, maybe an exercise would be you picturing you speaking to a parent or caregiver and saying,
Someone that you had something to say to,
"Yes,
right?
yes,
Maybe that's a parent, maybe that's a caregiver, maybe it's Joe Schmo, right?
yeah,
So for me, yeah, there was obvious conversations I needed to have with my parents that never took place, and it wasn't in a place that it could take place at this point in time.
mm-hmm.
So what happened was that I went and had these conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and effectively we, like, after that, you'd go and you'd take this bat, and if there was any energy or anything else that you needed to exercise, as it were, you would go and do that.
Mm. Yeah." And just
Yeah.
what did that do for you? Like, yeah, how did that? How do you feel like that helped in the sense
Provided a
of
release.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
There was lots of yelling and screaming.
yeah,
And I think, again, it's not to say, I think in certain contexts this might be, again, it's different strokes for different folks, because for some people, yeah, maybe they did that all the time growing up. Maybe that was the only thing they knew how to do.
mm-hmm.
So that might not necessarily be the most functional tool for them.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that was never something I did.
Mm-hmm.
So it was extremely functional for me
Mm-hmm.
because I had a lot to get out.
Yeah, right.
And at that point in time, I've said this before as a metaphor, like bottles are meant to carry something,
Mm-hmm.
right? I just had like a case of bottles
Mm. Mm.
that needed to be poured out.
You know, that's interesting because, you know, you describe yourself as lost as a young man,
Sure.
right? At this time, like, you know, prior to going to rehab, which in a weird way, like at first I would equate lost to feeling empty. And maybe there's credence to that. But in many ways, it sounds like there was a lot that you need to get out. like you just said, that you needed to release and to work through in order to make space for what you had, for life and what you needed to pursue.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
No, I would say that's 100% accurate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like the consideration of me even being a father, there wasn't space for that.
Yeah.
There wasn't space in your life for that.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's 100% accurate.
Mm.
And I didn't know how to make space for it. I didn't know how to imagine it even. And again, after that point, I was there for 6 weeks. And after that point, you could say I was kind of open on the operating table. I came back and everyone was like, "Man, you're really angry." I remember it was so funny. I remember my sister-in-law saying, like, "It just seems like you cuss a lot more and you're mad." And
that's so funny.
And I mean, it was honest and truthful. And it's like, hey, I can't argue with that. Like, you're right. Like,
you're like, man, I'm loving this anger thing.
Yeah, and that's something I find, like, whenever people go through experiences, a lot of times, especially they're somewhat forming. It's like, unfortunately, I think as humans, we tend to go from one extreme to the other. Mm. And so I think I came away from that experience on the other end of that extreme, not really understanding. And again, I think that's part of the process, so to speak, but still not knowing where to fall in that continuum and then how to be able to fully recalibrate and resolve in a meaningful way. And that took some time. There's still much more to work through, but I think to use your words, I think space was now there. And so that was the journey of then filling that space. And that's when dreams started to happen on a more functional level. That's where it was like, okay, like, here is life.
Yeah, what do I want to do? What do I want to make of this gift called life?
Go.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay, but the thing is, you'd been married for some years.
Yeah.
Had your wife wanted to pursue being parents? Like, is that something you guys had talked about? Like,
every time, it was funny because we both knew, and well, she knew, like, I had gone through some stuff and there was still more to go through. And I think to a certain degree, she was still kind of waiting, because during that period, like, the first 5 years, or I would say like it was actually like the mid 5 years of our marriage, like first 2 were okay. But then years like 2 through 7 were really hard. Mostly because I was lost.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. Like, but they were extremely difficult to the point to where it's like, rightly so, people had advised her, like, hey, you may want to consider some other options here. And we knew, like, going into it, we're like, we're not having kids for like 5 years. And then at year 5, we're like, 5 more years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we just weren't ready. And like, I didn't know how to even conceive the idea of having children.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean by we weren't ready? What does ready mean, like, for you?
Yeah.
Like,
so it was
parents?
like financially, like, I didn't know how to fathom being a father.
Yeah.
Like, I just wasn't ready. Like,
yeah.
I didn't feel that I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't even fathom it. And I was scared. I was terrified of it. Not that you should ever feel completely okay with it, because I think a certain amount of fear is healthy to have for that. But like, it was way beyond the scope.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Which is, it's interesting because, I'm sure there's a lot of people even listening now who are parents, fathers, mothers, who maybe for one reason or another became parents when they weren't ready.
Sure.
Right? Because that's how sex works, right?
I mean, to be clear,
that's
it's
how
like,
sex works.
You're never ready.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't believe so. But I think that you can put things in place to make that as ready as you possibly can be. Like, you're never going to be able to know what life has in store for you in that way. Right? You couldn't possibly prepare yourself for all of those things.
Yeah.
But you can put yourself in a much better spot.
Yeah.
Right? There can still be levels to where it's like, okay, we're a little bit more prepared than not.
Yeah.
Right.
What pieces do you feel like? So you feel like the financial piece was helpful for you?
I mean, financial piece was a big one.
Like, if
right, like
you're like,
mostly
okay,
because
good.
I wasn't even in a place that I could provide for a family. And I didn't want that for my wife. My wife didn't want that for my wife, right? And so, and that made it really challenging,
Mm-hmm.
especially because the views we had in marriage were ones that were more traditional in the sense that, like, hey, like if she wanted to be able to stay home, like,
Mm-hmm.
would that be possible? And under the current circumstances at that time,
Mm-hmm.
no,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so,
Mm-hmm.
how could we get that to happen? But like, more importantly, even like, I needed to know the way that I could really pursue life and what that would look like for me. Like, I needed to have meaning and purpose
Mm-hmm.
and know what type of vocation, if you will, would really fuel that for me. Because one thing was always common for me in that, like, I I was good at a lot of things in the sense that like I could do something and be good at it for a little while, but it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't hold my attention very long.
Mm. ADHD there.
Hey, there you
Yeah.
go. Poster child.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think I said, I can't remember if I said this before, but I think I did. Like, one of my favorite jobs was working at Domino's. I loved flipping pizzas. It was excellent.
Mm.
And it was the Domino's literally like 2 miles from where we're recording here, or maybe it's like four.
Oh yeah.
But like, oh, it
Mm.
was an excellent job. I loved it. It
Mm.
was it was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
If I could have provided for a family in the way that I want to, like, I would have stuck with it. Now, I couldn't see that vision. Not to discredit people who do that, like, because
Mm.
hey, I'm sure there's people
They're
that
fun.
do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
power
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
Like, I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fantastic. But it wasn't there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And but I love that job. It was
Mm.
so great.
Mm.
Right. It was
Yeah.
so much fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, and the same thing. I mean, my wife, often we've had conversations back and forth because we basically got married when my wife was going through a career change, and just as she was concluding that, I decided to switch careers and become a therapist.
Wow.
And I feel like at that point we could have, you know, considered just going ahead and try to have kids. But one of the things she had shared was like, I I want to be able to have the option to stay home.
Mm,
And right now, with you switching careers, it's not
mm,
it's not an option. And having kids work, it's just
mm,
right.
mm.
So definitely on the ready piece, right? That was a huge consideration. So like on the financial piece, how we were balancing that and sharing it. So
Mhm.
what you said reminded me of that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it sounded like emotionally too, right? Like because you made that space after going through that
Yeah.
experience with rehab and everything, and learning so much about yourself, giving yourself space
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah. And it's interesting because there was still a lot of growing coming from that process afterwards. Like, I was still very,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because that's one of the things I think that is very precarious about therapy is that, like, therapists have a whole lot more power and are way more influential than they realize.
Mm-hmm.
I was extremely impressionable even when I went into rehab because I was in a vulnerable place.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming out of that, like, I was advised to find therapists, found some that were still very helpful. But again, like, I had to determine and really, really put into action and practice, like, what things I found the most meaningful
Mm-hmm.
and which areas that seemed to me that needed the most attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a process all its own. That was a graduating process.
Mm-hmm.
But I think through that, I guess circling back to some of these pieces, that's where I really began to see, like, wow, like, fatherhood, parenting, that could be a reality for me.
Yeah.
I could have that.
Yeah. Why did you want it when you wanted it? Like what appealed to you? What about being
Man,
a father?
honestly, I think a few of the things, one was seeing the reality that I could provide love to a
Mm.
child
Mm.
and care and
Mm-hmm.
safety.
Mm.
And also seeing that like my own childhood, though tumultuous, wasn't all bad,
Mm.
right? Yes, there was trauma. No denying it. It was there. But there was also light.
Mm-hmm.
There was love. Though it was marred in many other things, there was a lot to be treasured.
Mm-hmm.
And holding those two things hand in hand was very challenging, but highly valuable.
Mm. Yeah. It was meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because that's, I mean, especially someone with the story that you have. And I know we're just scratching the surface. Some
Yeah,
of
we're
what you've
tiptoeing around
shared,
it.
man. Like, I'm sure everyone's listening. Like, man, David asked it. I'm like, no, we're talking about fatherhood. We're talking about fatherhood. I have questions on those other pieces, but
Yeah.
yeah, because I think I don't know who said this, but I've heard a lot of people bring up this question of like, why bring a child into such a dangerous,
Marred world.
marred world where
Yeah.
so much bad could happen to them? Why bring a child into that?
Yeah.
Right, an innocent child. Why do that? Why bother? Right, in the sense of like, sometimes people will say like, I feel like having kids is like a very selfish decision
Sure.
because it's like, why bring a child into that?
Sure.
Is that just for you or like what?
Yeah.
But I like that, like what you said, that despite a lot of the chaos you experienced, there was beauty, there was
There was.
there was meaning, and I think biggest of all, there was hope, right? And the very fact that you are now at a place wanting a child and being able to create a future and a reality that you didn't get to experience fully in the
Yeah.
way that they do now.
Yeah.
Right.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I would say those were the two big things that I began to see was that like, oh no, I can see this for myself. And I believe that I believe that I have the capability and capacity
Mm-hmm.
to do this. Though I'm scared, I think that I can.
Mm.
And also, though it was painstaking and difficult, it was still highly valuable.
Mm.
And
What your
my own
your
story and
story?
my own
Yeah,
history,
got you,
right? Like,
got you.
and my own childhood.
Mm.
And I think that whether I like it or not, there's still so many elements of that that made me the father that I am today.
Mm. Mm.
Both good and bad.
Both good. True.
Yeah.
Both good and bad. Hmm. How did it feel? Oh, okay. Before
Okay.
that,
Okay.
before that. Right. So I guess I can answer this question too, because I want to be a dad, right? I'm not a dad. I still want to be.
Sure.
And I'd say very similar to what you said, the opportunity to love and give to a child. I see a lot of my friends who are dads,
Mm.
and I just see the levels of the character development
Mm.
that they've gone through.
Trial by fire.
Trial
Man.
by fire, man. And I'd say for me, from this is not from a selfish point, like the best types of men that I know are fathers,
Mm.
right? And so in that sense, I'm like, I value the experience of being a dad because of how it can develop oneself, right? It can train you to develop yourself, the opportunity that it provides,
Mm.
right? And then obviously, you being benefited by that is because you're benefiting someone else. So it's like a circular.
Yeah.
feedback loop. So yeah, cool. So how did it feel
Mhm.
the moment you first saw your first child? Were you there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There for
Okay.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yep. Watched everyone happen. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was holding a leg. Like
Get out.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd always intended like I want to
Oh
be.
yeah. No, I was like
Mm,
once it was happening, like
mm,
I was in it, man. Right? Like
mm,
so if for me, it was very surreal. And I cried. I
mm.
wasn't even sure what emotions I was experiencing, but I was crying, right? Like I
Yeah.
was so proud of my wife because it was like such an incredible experience. And at the same time, like I I was like, wow, like it was just a very surreal thing. And then of course you don't sleep for like a week. And so it was surreal on
So you're
multiple
riding
levels.
that.
Yeah, because
You're
you're like,
riding that high.
whoa, like this is crazy. I feel like I'm in a dream. I am kind of dreaming, and I'm not because I'm not sleeping, and I am kind of going nuts because I'm not. I'm not sleeping. Anyway, like,
Different level of
yeah,
consciousness.
100%. And so like, I don't think it was interesting because it's like it wasn't for me. It wasn't like a click moment. It was like a series of moments,
Mm.
right? A series of tiny moments that started to encapsulate a, a beautiful picture that developed into a story that was longer and played out and continued and that I was writing. And it has been just awe inspiring.
Mm.
I remember certain moments like seeing my daughter smile, laugh, right? Like grab my hand, you know,
Mhm.
walk when she said daddy, right? Like all of these things that like flash forward through your mind
Mm.
that put together this collage that epitomizes awe.
Mm. Oh,
Yeah.
man. I love that.
Yeah. It's so I think it makes it, not to sound like too Hollywood esque,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I think of like, did you ever see the movie? What was the movie? I can't, was it Armageddon with Bruce Willis and Liv Taylor back in the
I
day?
don't think so. Yeah.
You never watched it?
I don't
Oh,
think so.
okay.
I mean, yeah, there's so
Anyways,
many movies
pretty
that.
sure it was Armageddon because
Mm-hmm.
there was like two asteroid movies that came out. I think around like '98
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it was 2000. It
Mm.
was 25 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah. I feel
And
like a lot of your favorite movies are like '90s movies,
most
and
well
unfortunately, I
and
haven't
pre
watched
'90s like
pre '90s too.
Last of the Mohicans,
Mm.
1986, I think. Um, yeah, that, I mean, epic, or maybe it was '88. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, Armageddon. Anyways, like Bruce Willis dies to dives dies to save the world, essentially, right? But in that scene, like there's like this flash forward, like of images, a series of images of his daughter, like flashing, like just boom, 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 like all these images, like and like flashing through. It's not like one image. It's not like a few. It's just a bunch. It goes through probably like 50 images, like in the matter of a few seconds,
Okay.
and then he dies. But it encapsulates, and it does it for a reason because it's essentially trying to tell the story that encapsulates him as a father. It
Mm.
couldn't be told in just one moment, but a series of
A series
moments.
of moments.
And
Mm.
it was beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a real
Oh
tearjerker,
man.
actually. And
Oh.
you're just like, whoa. And to me, that it's very similar,
Mm.
right? Like, there's so many little moments that just paint a picture. And that's really what's been beautiful and yeah,
Yeah.
quintessential for me.
The
Yes.
Yeah. So that speaks to me,
Mm,
right? Because especially as someone who's like aspiring to be a dad, I'm looking forward to that
yeah.
experience of awe.
Mm,
But I want to contrast it and ask you about the other experience, right? Of
yeah.
responsibility and like
Frustration.
frustration and yeah, just like the burden, right, that you have
Yeah.
to carry now
Yeah.
as having another life
Mm,
that you're responsible for, and then being a dad and
mm.
like providing, and in many ways maybe that all can be hard to experience or cherish,
Can be.
or how do you how, I guess, how have you seen that
I think that
balance in your life of like awe and like, man, this is hard, this is not easy.
I think that how do I balance it? I think that one of the only ways that I am able to balance it is honestly through prayer.
Mm,
I have to ask God, and I would say that I probably do this almost every night in that I do not take any moment for granted or my children for granted because I'm totally capable of doing that because I'm a human.
mm-hmm,
But it's a prayer I pray every night to say, may I not take any of this or take anything for granted.
mm-hmm,
And I think by doing that,
mm,
it allows for greater intentionality and greater patience
mm.
because even the trial is valuable. It's like I think today, like I was getting short with my kids. Like my middle daughter was like hungry and she was asking to do something and she was running a million miles an hour and then she wanted something to eat. She immediately grabbed it from the fridge and I was like, no, honey, I'll do it. She grabs the yogurt, sticks the spoon in it, pulls out this big clump and it splashes on the floor, right, all over my socks and on the floor. And
Yeah.
like in the moment, I for a split second I was tempted to be really angry and yell at her. Like I was telling you, like what is happening
Yeah,
here?
yeah. Not a lot of awe in that
Right?
moment.
It's just like, and then she just looks up at me and she's like, and I'm like, okay, honey,
Mm,
we got to clean this up. I
mm,
need you to slow down,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And then she just okay, like,
Yeah.
but it's like those moments you have choices to make. Unfortunately, I don't always make choices like that. I
Mhm,
try to, but I think when we can make choices to be able to weigh situations appropriately, we have a greater capacity to not take things for granted, to understand that, yes, okay, though it is my responsibility to still discipline this child and ensure that they have all the tools necessary to be a functioning, decent human being
mm,
and a follower of Jesus, as is
mm,
my
mhm,
household, right?
mhm, mhm.
I still very much need to be able to say, okay, I have to have compassion and I need to be able to appreciate the moments that I'm getting frustrated here.
Yeah.
And can I be able to zoom out for a second and see that this situation is actually hilarious
Mm.
because it is. And in,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
few hours or a few years, I'm going to be laughing at this,
Right.
right?
Right.
Even though in the moment I'm crying.
Yeah. Because those are that then becomes a moment of awe
Exactly.
for you. Then becomes one of those moments that flashes.
Yes.
But in that moment, it's like a struggle between like, dude,
Yeah.
yeah, mm, that's yeah. Because I feel like that's the hard part is people. Where in many ways you're faced with that reality, whether it's like financially being able to provide for your kid, right? It's like maybe you're doing some backbreaking work, come home, kids are loud, kids are right. But at the same time you're doing it for them,
Mm-hmm.
and there is those moments of awe that sometimes I think a lot of parents struggle with how to cherish and capture
Yeah.
those moments.
Because you're tired.
Yeah.
You're spent.
Yeah.
You feel like you don't have another ounce to give. You've been drained.
Mm,
And that's when it gets hard. That's when the real grind begins and it becomes now the most challenging thing you've ever done in your life.
mm.
Because in that moment, you have to save that tiny human being from you.
You have to save that tiny being from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because yes, you have to keep them alive, but in certain moments, like the only danger to them is you,
Mm,
in the sense that like you are the most impressionable thing upon them.
yeah. For good or for bad.
Exactly.
Mm, yeah. And so it sounds like for you, it's even learning to transform or see even the challenges as moments that are valuable and that, you know, ideally like to bring about awe as well.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd say I like that.
Yeah.
That's. I would say that's the challenge. That's the journey. That's the goal.
Yeah.
And it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I would say that how I what I need to do in my best moments is like for me that's where like conscious contact with God comes into play because I can't actually do it that well without him.
Mm.
I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it's like I think it's interesting because circling back to like fatherhood and that whole story I told about rehab, it was interesting because in that moment I learned that I could be angry at God
Mm.
and God could handle it.
Mm.
He was okay with it and he could stand toe to toe with me and I could be humbled
Mm.
and like quite functionally be brought to my knees. I would think it was like going through that whole point in my life, like the story of Job came like so like hard pressing in for me
Mm.
because I was in a place to where for a while I said I was angry and then I kind of got into this like chip on my shoulder phase of being like, you know what, I went through all of this. How could you let me go through all of this?
Right.
And message after message in one form or fashion or another was hang on a second. Let's talk.
Mm.
And if you're ready to talk, you need to be ready to listen. And those moments brought me to my knees.
Mm.
And those moments really showed me, okay, like none of this in this life can I actually do without you. And he was showing me, okay, this is what a good father does. Because yeah, my kids are going to get mad at me. They're going to say things to me. Can I be
Mm.
able to take it? Can I be that bulwark
Mm.
of tolerating so many things
Mm.
to be strong, to be able to hold it together,
Mm-hmm.
to model that?
To model it.
And when the time comes, be able to say, hey, let's talk if you really want to talk.
Mm.
But here's the line.
Mm.
You've said what you're going to say.
Mm.
Now I'm going to speak.
Mm.
And that's, I think, that's been another huge shaping thing for me.
So what you're basically saying is, in many ways, the way that you approach fatherhood has been influenced by the father-like relationship that you have with God, like as
Yeah.
you as God's child.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's influenced
Yes.
you.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And how God has shown me that through other people as well. And
Mm.
I'd say like that,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
that's how that's characterized too.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great, because I have a quote here from C.S. Lewis.
Okay.
I was like,
He was
when
waiting
am
for
I
it.
gonna bring it up?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, right? So it's in the book, The Problem of Pain,
Oof,
and
man.
yeah, and so Lewis is discussing God's role as father and how human fatherhood is meant to reflect that, right?
Yeah.
So he says, like, by the goodness of God, we mean nowadays almost exclusively his lovingness.
Mm.
And in this we may be right. And by love in this context, most of us mean kindness, the desire to see others than the self happy, not happy in this way or in that, but just happy.
Mm.
What would really satisfy us would be a God who said of anything we happen to like doing, what does it matter so long as they're contented?
Mm.
We want, in fact, not so much a father in heaven as a grandfather in heaven,
Mm.
a senile benevolence who, as they say, liked to see young people enjoying themselves.
Mm.
Right? So, like, in summary, basically saying that
A genie.
oftentimes, yeah, right. So, oftentimes he's like, what we often want is like a grandfather version of God. But what we really need is like the father version of God. And like, I like how you balance that when you talked of your experience of like, yeah, let's talk, right? Like, God can handle your anger,
Yeah.
right? He's a loving God.
Yeah.
But he's like, but you need to listen.
Yeah.
You gotta
No,
talk.
like,
You need to listen, right?
and that's 100%. I think
right.
what my own, yeah,
Mhm.
the rest of my journey for another time. I think it's 100% like what it demonstrates is like, hey, like there's plenty. I can say anything, but there's going to come a point when I need to listen,
Mm-hmm.
not for his benefit. He doesn't need me to listen.
Mm-hmm.
But if I desire what it is he has to offer, that's what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, like if I desire to model that, that's what I need.
Yeah.
And so that's an ever humbling experience.
Yeah.
Because I miss the mark in so many ways so frequently that I have to understand my capacity to really screw things up. And not in a sense that it's like, oh, that's all of what I'm doing, but being able to understand like, okay, like I still have a father that I still have to learn from.
Mm.
And how can I now translate this and model this? But long story short, I love that quote though.
Yeah.
It's from a fantastic book.
Yeah.
But
right. No, I think, and I think that's maybe a challenge that maybe fathers face in general, right? Is that one, to be a container for all the messiness that is bringing up a child, right? And especially like, as a father as well, as like in many ways, like, even your the wife, the mother, also bringing like listen, like
yeah,
like as you as a dad, like what are we gonna do about, right? Also looking to you in many ways as
the bulwark.
Yeah, as the bulwark, right?
Yeah,
to contain it.
Yeah, it's a hard job.
Yeah. Yeah, the let's talk, right? I mean, it's easy to say let's talk.
Yeah.
But what are you really saying? You're saying like bring it.
Yeah. No, that's exactly.
Bring it.
That's exactly what you're
bring
saying.
Bring your mess. Yeah.
I want
bring the chaos.
And it's so interesting, like that same parallel, not to bring up Lewis again, but I remember, and I think it was in Mere Christianity that he talks about God and how he approaches us to say, I don't want so much of your time. I don't want so much of your things. I want you, all of you, like all that's encapsulated there. And I think as a father, what's demonstrated there in that same vision is like, okay, I don't need so much of your time, but like I am open to all of you, all of the mess, all of the discomfort, all of the angst. I'm here for it. Right. And I can take it. Now, again, there's going to be limits there, right? To where I'm also going to put boundaries in place here, but I can hear it.
Yeah. Okay. So before we go to the boundaries aspect of fatherhood, right?
Yeah.
Because even that aspect of containing as a father, that's a lot to ask. It's a responsibility that one must take.
It's an unconscionable responsibility.
It's an unconscionable responsibility.
Yeah. In many cases.
Yeah. So how does one carry that? Because I feel like many fathers struggle to
I
carry
don't
that.
think to be perfectly honest, like, not to try to over spiritualize, but I don't think people can adequately carry it without God.
Mm,
I don't think
yeah.
you were designed to, and that's how I view the world. I
Mm,
think that, again, I not to say that there aren't good fathers that don't believe in God. I'm
yeah.
not trying to suggest
Right.
that,
Right.
but I think that how you were designed and meant to carry something
Mm,
was through that mode and through that vein. I
mm,
think the fact that you're doing it without it, quote unquote, is a miracle. But I
mm,
think God also gives miracles,
yeah.
even whether or not people
Yeah. Right.
see Him.
Yeah. Yeah. He makes the rain to shine on the just and the unjust. Right.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But I also think there's an element to where it's like, okay, if we have a relationship, He holds me to a higher responsibility to that then.
Mm, right. There's that idea of like, in order to carry, you must be carried.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Um.
No, I think that's a
Yeah.
great I think that's a great way to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like,
Or you must at least know what it's like
to be
to be
to be
carried.
carried. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, have we talked about self-care on an episode before?
I think we have. Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
have. Yeah,
Yeah.
at some point way back in the
Hmm.
teens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We're in
yeah.
the 20s now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know you said prayer is a big one for you.
Yeah.
Are there any ways that, and like specifically to your role as a father, because I'm sure like your role as a father in many ways reorients how you approach life. Like, how did that reorient your life?
I mean, so in some ways, involuntarily, I didn't even know how much it would change. And people tell you, yeah, everything's going to change, but everything changed.
Everything.
Everything changed. Like your entire purpose and function changes. Everything you do has a completely different mode. And it has to. Otherwise, you can be a person who is a father and is a terrible person and a bad father.
Mm,
Like that's perfectly possible. But if your values are going to line up and kind of are, as it were to say, are up to snuff there, then everything must change. And you must understand how to properly prioritize the things that mean the most.
mm-hmm.
And I've done good at that at times, and I've done bad at that at times.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say the things that, yeah, as a result, of even like all my own pieces for self-care had to change. But then also like
Mm-hmm.
how I prioritized my wife's opportunity for self-care had to change.
Mm,
Because before we had children, I didn't need to think about that as much. She could think about that,
mm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
it was, possible for her to be way more autonomous in that way because she had arguably even an even larger sacrifice in a different way than I did.
Mm,
She sacrificed her body as well. And the body cannot live without the mind,
mm,
right?
mm,
And when those are taxed, things get hard.
mm-hmm.
So, as it were, like now the additional responsibility comes into play to say, all right, like how can I help support you in making this a priority for you?
Mm,
So, in many ways, we both have to band together even more to make sure things are spread out. And I would say in another way, it's like you become way more efficient with your time.
That's
Or
what I hear. I always hear that.
or you're just up the creek without a paddle in many ways. But like I would say most of the time you become way more efficient with your time. I think the one thing that like my wife and I have talked about constantly is like, what did we do with ourselves?
Dude, I always hear that from
Like,
parents,
what
man.
did we even
They're like,
do?
yeah, like we had all the time in
yeah,
the world.
what, like we just wasted so much time.
Yeah.
Like we stayed up late watching movies all the time, like all this
Yeah.
stuff. I can't even tell you the last movie that I watched. I don't know when
Yeah,
that
I'm always
was.
telling Dale, like, Dale, man, have you heard of this new show? Have you heard of this new movie? He's like, man, I can't even tell you the last show. Like, what are you talking? When am I gonna watch it?
No,
When am I gonna watch it?
It's like I'd love it. Like I'd probably enjoy it, but it's like, yeah, hey, dishes need to be done, trash needs to be taken out. Like uh,
Hmm.
lawn needs to be like
Clean the
cleaning.
house.
There's always it's like we clean the house today, even like to for people coming over for lunch, and then like my son's over there throwing stuff all over the floor. Just and at that point, you just sit down on the couch and you're like, there he is, just making a mess. And my wife sits down on the couch next to me and says, "Yeah, this is."
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, no,
this is it.
100%. Like that's
Yeah,
there it goes again.
yeah.
Like it's gone. Like it's just done. And like you want to get up and grab them, and you're just like, okay,
Mm,
all right. Like,
yeah.
but again, like, yeah, I think you become way more efficient with your time, and I think you learn to prioritize each other more, like between you and your spouse, because otherwise things get hairy.
Mm. Spills over into
Yeah,
your parenthood.
100%.
Yeah.
And your kids watch that too. Like my children know, like start to fall in line with our routines as well. Like it's funny. Like my kids know. Obviously, they know I come to train jujitsu because they train jujitsu.
Hmm.
But they know when their schedule is. They know when mine is. They know when my wife's is. When she goes and does things for her, like they see that.
Mm.
And so in some ways, I think it's highly useful and highly functional because they need to see too, like, hey, this is what it looks like. They need to have some sense of structure because for them to learn it on their own the hard way is really hard.
Mm.
So hopefully the goal is that you're equipping them.
Mm. Yeah, modeling. Yeah, they catch, what is it? Not so much taught as what is caught.
Mm,
Kids,
yeah.
they just catch. They
Yeah.
catch on
Yeah.
the routine and the rhythms.
Yeah.
Right. That in the homes that they live in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I've never heard that adage. I love that.
Yeah. It's not so much what's taught, but what's caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like, oh, you just say it, but no, the kid is watching you.
100%. 100%.
Kid is watching you, because kids can't differentiate between oh yeah, okay, yeah, but they told me that. Okay, but I'm seeing different actions. It's hard for them to differentiate.
No. So they'll just learn that.
Yeah,
they'll learn to do something differently than what is told.
Yeah.
Like
because
they'll see the
they
duality.
can't isolate. They're not just gonna compartmentalize.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's how you are able to carry and contain, right, that messiness
In the best moments, yes.
Yeah, in the best moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you, like, your self-care routine is very important.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've been making it a priority for your wife as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Mm.
I would say that they're both equally as important because invariably what affects her affects me and what affects me affects her.
Mm. Yeah. Cool. So there's that, right? There's that containment.
Yeah.
But there's also the boundaries, the limits, the guidance, right? It's not enough to simply be like, let's talk, bring all your mess. But there's also that aspect of like, no, yeah, you after you talk, you listen. There's ways in which we operate. How have you seen that play out? Because I think that's the part that sometimes people.
Do you mean like in my parenting or
in your parenting
in my parent like how do you mean exactly? Like I'm curious, like what, like like as far as like how I provide discipline.
Not really how, more so what motivates you, like what drives you. You know what
to do that, like what drives me to provide that line or to say, hey, here's the
because I feel like a lot of people, like they maybe have, everyone has their way of doing things, but for some people it's like impulse, right?
Yeah.
Or
so
it's like,
no, I get what you're saying. So honestly, like in many cases when I have to discipline my children, I don't want to. And I would argue that for many parents, like that's probably true to some degree because you recognize that you have to do a hard thing. And the reason I say that is because I don't want to provide them an experience of discomfort. Because to some degree, it's also it's uncomfortable for me. But I also have to recognize that like I am hurting them if I don't. I'm not equipping them.
Mm.
They will be crippled.
Mm. Mhm.
They will not understand what good boundaries look like or how to instill them themselves,
Mm.
where limits are, because they have to know.
Mm. Right. Before the world shows them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't. Like it.
Yeah.
It's nerve wracking at times.
Yeah.
But again, like it's extremely necessary,
Mm.
because even now it's like I think to some degree, like I can see it in my daughters now, like they stand up for themselves and they stand up for each other pretty pointedly. And I think it's very healthy. Now, obviously that has to be tempered to some degree,
Mhm.
but I've seen it in how they play
Mm.
and how they have disagreements with other children. Like to where it's like, okay, no, like they know how to back each other up.
I
That's
love
good.
that. I
That's
love that.
necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very necessary. They'll need that in life.
Yeah.
I didn't have that well.
Mm.
I didn't know how to do that very well.
Mm.
And so I'm grateful to see that they're getting some of those pieces, and hopefully they continue to be able to see more of that.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Because again, like I feel like that's the part where there's, the awe you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel hard at those moments,
Oh,
right? You have to
100%.
discipline a child or guide them, set limits.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just like, man.
Yeah. No,
'Cause I
100%.
don't want to do this. Why?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because I think a lot of times as
Mhm.
parents, we want our kids to like us. We want them to like us
Mm.
because it feels good. You get
Yeah.
used to this like endearing tone that they talk to you, like how happy they are to see you, and we want them to like us.
Mhm.
But the only problem is like I don't believe I'm here to be their friend. Not first, at least.
Mm.
And that it's like painstaking to say. Like, yes, I want to be able to be support for them and to be
Mhm.
nurturing.
Mhm.
But I'm not here to be their friend in the sense of the word to say like I'm here just to get along with them.
Mm.
I'm not here to just get along with them.
Mm.
That's not my role.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here to be nurturing. I'm here to provide support. I'm here to provide guidance. I'm here to love them 100%. But I'm not here. My first purpose isn't to be their friend.
Yeah.
It's not to say that it's part of it. It's not to say that it doesn't exist, especially as they age and get older.
For sure.
But I think first and foremost, if I get too caught up with wanting my children to like me, then I'm seeking their approval.
Mm.
And that's how things become dysfunctional.
Right. And as a father, how do you feel like that? Do you feel like there's a special way in which your role as a father plays into that? Or
I don't know.
mm.
I
Because I know, okay, so for
Sure.
example, in my
Yeah.
household, and of course, this is a Kenyan traditional household, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my mom would set limits the most because she was the most with us,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and because my dad's at work, comes home, but like when we would get to certain levels of uh of behavior,
Mm.
she'd pull out the dad card. She'd
Yeah.
pull out the dad card, right? And so I don't know what that did to us, right? But
I think okay,
yeah.
so I think that this is a
Mhm.
unique thing too, and this is where it may be slightly different because your family's comprised of two boys and one girl, correct?
Correct.
So my kids are three daughters, one boy.
Mm.
I think as my son ages, that's going to matter a lot more for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Inherently, I have to. This is hardest for me with my daughters. It is because I am wrapped around their finger in many ways. I'm not.
Mm.
shy to that fact.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's not like I don't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
That is the hardest challenge for me, hands down, is towing the line the way I need to as a father for them because I'm a sucker. Like
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah, yeah.
it's just how
Girl
like
dad, man.
it's true, right?
Yeah.
And so I work very hard to try to toe that line with them, but I know that with my son I can already see like
Mm,
no, like
mm.
it's not that way with him to the
Yeah.
same degree.
That's so interesting because even now, like growing up, I didn't realize how much harder my mom was on my sister than on us.
Hmm.
Because like my sister would be like, "Yeah, mom tells me." I was like, "Dude, mom, what? Like, mom be telling you,
Hmm.
right? Like in terms of towing the line."
Yeah.
I was like, "That's interesting."
Hmm. It's a
Just
thing.
like how naturally it happens.
Oh yeah, like I mean, my son, he's a mama's boy, which I think that is a natural thing. Like I think mothers to sons and fathers to daughters is a
Hmm.
unique relationship,
Mm.
right? I think we can see that for generations of people. Like it is a unique relationship. But again, I already know that like how that paradigm is going to be slightly different. Like myself to my son versus myself to my daughters because it is already.
Wow. Yeah, that's super fascinating. Yeah. Hmm. So so boundaries and limits. I think it goes back to the C.S. Lewis quote of father versus grandfather.
Mm,
Um, that as a father you gotta make that hard decision to not to be okay being seen as the bad guy, especially at least momentarily,
yeah,
right?
not being liked.
Not being liked, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Not to be liked,
Hmm.
but to actually benefit
Sure.
your child.
Hmm.
Um, what's like what's like a lesson that just as we wrap up here, give me one lesson this Father's Day because you've been a father how many years?
6,
6 years,
6.5.
6.5.
Yeah.
So, but this is your sixth Father's Day,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's your sixth Father's
Hmm.
Day.
Hmm.
So yeah, like sixth year of parenting, being a dad.
Which isn't that long comparatively speaking, but
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
like,
So
but specifically in your sixth year, like, what is the sixth year? What is like a lesson you
lesson.
feel like is the sixth year has taught you? Because like obviously you have 4 kids now.
Mm.
Um, I'm sure being a dad of 4 kids versus one is probably
Oh,
a whole different ball game.
it is
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. So a lesson. That's a good
Mm.
question. Uh, Yeah, I think that I guess intuitively the thing that I'm drawn to more is harkening back to like not taking anything for granted,
Mm.
right? And being sure that I'm vocal with how I thank God for that because it reminds myself and that helps keep me grounded and more patient and consistent.
Mm. Yeah. So would you say that now more than the past maybe 5 years,
Yeah.
it's you feel it's easier to take things for granted because of maybe all that you're
Well,
juggling,
so
or
I think that it's I don't know about easier.
mm-hmm.
I would say that I see it as more of a greater necessity now,
Okay,
right? Like
yeah,
I see it as
gotcha.
a huge necessity and something that I cannot forget to do. Like I
Mm,
must be diligent to do
mm.
because it's served me very well and it continues to serve me and it's a very, very necessary ingredient.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day, and there's this like paradox that people face, not just in parenthood but in life, where it's like the the more responsibilities you take on, it it feels like you don't have time to even take that moment to
Yeah.
not take it for granted because
Mhm.
like I'm busy.
Yeah.
I don't have time to take time apart to.
Yeah.
reflect, to
Yeah.
pray, to,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just need to keep on keeping on because I have so many responsibilities.
Yeah.
But it's like actually the onus is for you to actually because you have more responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
There is even a greater necessity, like you said,
100%.
which can feel very like paradoxical
Yeah.
in the moment. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But it's no, where's the time and space for it? But it's like, no, but that's a
That's
necessity.
the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter, like, even doing things today, that's like my daughter was asked me, she's like, Daddy, like, she's like hanging on my leg. And like, she does this all the time. And so sometimes I'm like, all right, Addie, you got to get off. Right. Like, I got to go do this or I have to go do that. And she told me, she's like, Daddy, I just want to play. I want to play with you. When can we play?
Yeah.
And that moment is so powerful because it's like she's asking for something very simple, actually. What is actually more important for me to do right now? Like, is there a death emergency that now? Okay, sir, in certain cases, sure.
Yeah.
But like, do I not have 5 minutes
to
play just for a moment? And more often I do than don't, right? When those scenarios take place. But sometimes I just get frustrated.
Yeah.
And I'm not able to simply see the forest through the trees to say, we can play. Yes, I'm going to play. Let's play.
Yeah.
Because she's not going to ask that forever.
She's not.
No, it's going to be gone before I know it.
She's like, no, I don't want to play with you. I want to play with my friends.
Yeah. Or like, yeah, I got to go. Yeah. Got to go to work. Got to go to school.
Got to go. Yeah. No time for play with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not taken for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like that's a lesson, we can apply as parents, non-parents, right?
Cool.
Each moment. So it's good. I mean, happy Father's Day. I feel like, for those of you who don't know, we live in a rural area. So when you live in a rural area, you gotta make sure the people in your life play many roles.
Yeah.
Right. So
sure.
So right. So like Dale, like we're coworkers. We do jujitsu together. We hang out. Go eat lunch. Right. Yeah. But I'd say I see you in many facets and in many hats, right? You wear many hats. Yeah. And it provides me the opportunity to see you in like many dimensions, and because you just have to be different in many ways for these hats that you wear.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, personally, I most admire the father hat that you wear. Like, for me, that's the most inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, happy Father's Day, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah, this was great.
All right.
All right, man.
Until next time.